All right. Hey, everybody. Yet another ham radio video. This is JKQ4DUX, and we're live. So, if you saw the thumbnail, my channel turned 1 year old. I was just a year ago yesterday, posted my first video. So, I thought we would do a recap. I don't do a whole lot of live streams, but I do them from time to time. And just kind of want to do something fun. So I did come up with a giveaway. We'll be giving away an antenna that I built. And if you want to know what that antenna is like, there's a video I made called the wire version, how to perform a wire version, something like that. Check out the channel. That's exactly what it is. And so to enter that, what you need to do, leave a comment here on the live chat or during the replay, and I'm going to let it run for maybe about 5 days to give everybody a chance to have a look at the live stream who couldn't make it here live tonight. And I will draw a name at random and let you know the winner. So let me know, what is your favorite type of video, either if you have a specific video or a type of video. So a type of video would be POTA activations, antenna videos, other experiments. I mean, I've done videos where I just talk about certain things. So, and I do live. So maybe you really like shorts. I don't know, but that's what I'm interested in. Put that in to join. I mean, to enter the giveaway, and we will keep you posted on that. So what I'd like to do is kind of just start with uh, go in chronological order. What was I thinking a year ago when I decided to start a YouTube channel? Why did I start it? Partially the reason for the name, Yet Another Ham Radio. Why do we need yet another ham radio channel on YouTube? Well, I didn't really want to do what has already been done and everybody's doing. And don't get me wrong, you don't just need one person to do a specific type of video or channel. Variety's good, but I wanted to bring something, a little bit unique or different to the table, and didn't really want to copy somebody and just really be set in a very specific thing. And some people do that, and we're thankful for that, because I'll just throw out, for instance, like CW POTA activators, where it's just for copy practice. That's an extremely useful, good thing, and I've used that. I've learned from that. I continue to learn that. I listen to certain channels all the time. That's all they do, and that's great. I do a little bit of that. There's other ones, if I'm looking to buy some gear. Naturally, I want to see somebody that actually has one, has used one, what they think about it. But I didn't really want to be a gear review channel either, or et cetera, et cetera. I think you know where I'm going with this. But what I wanted to do, and in the bio or the channel description, is it's supposed to be from a beginner's perspective. Because when I was brand new, and I've not been in the hobby that long, it's coming up on 3 years. So what I saw as a person brand new, didn't know anything about ham radio, and just getting a license, or even before I got a license, trying to learn about it, there was a lot of people who were very knowledgeable, and these people I'm still watching and learning from today. But all of the jargon and the terms, and all the abbreviations, especially that we're talking about, oh, this antenna has a high Q, but it has a low SWR and all that, and I didn't know what the heck are all these abbreviations about. So I wanted to try to bring a channel that would address some of these questions while I'm still a beginner, while I'm still learning. So you can kind of come along through the learning process with me. And yes, I'm still learning, still experimenting. I'm not coming from a place where I'm, been doing this for 20, 30, 50 years or whatever. And I often say that. I think you know that. So please, if I ever kind of drift away from that and I forget, and I can see that happens easily, that we use these terms so much, we kind of forget that there are people around that don't know all these different terms of all the ham radio, and it takes a while to get to learn all this stuff. So that was kind of the beginning of why I started the channel. I think what I'll probably do now is I'll share my screen and I'll look at my channel, and I'll start with some of the first videos I made, talk about them, why I made them, some of the highlights over the past year. A lot of stuff has happened in the last year. Um, some really fun things. There have been some tough times and rough patches along the way too, and I hope you enjoy it. So let me go to share. If anything I need to work on, it's YouTube Live. So bear with me. I'm going to. Okay, I think we got it here. Let me work on that. All right. Please let me know. Are you seeing my channel? I believe so. Okay. Shout out in the comments if the screen goes blank because I hit the wrong button. I've done that before. So, all right. So the very first video I did was kind of a commentary video, things to do when the bands are dead, and it just happened to be that wasn't much going on in the air. I thought, well, what can you do? I talked about a few different things you can do and do some maintenance, work on some different things. And then at the end of the day, I wrapped up with a video of like, maybe we need to spend time with the family or your spouse or whoever, because as much as we love this hobby, there's a temptation that it can get to be too much and too time consuming, and we can't let the hobby take away from the things that are more important. Then I did a few videos. This one was about the current POTA setup. Basically, that was when I first discovered the POTA performer style antenna. I saw a big improvement when I switched to that. And I've used other antennas, but that is kind of the mainstay. And then this next one was learning Morse code, the CW ladder. So in that video, I talked about kind of the steps from when you first get on the air to something that's really easy to do as a beginner to this is a little bit more difficult. And then, you can move on to this. And we talked about parks on the air and SKCC and rag chewing and different things. And that might be one that I redo at some point just because of the video quality. I was filming with my phone, and eventually I switched from that. But that was one of the very first. I probably won't mention every single, but did some review of the Palomar Bullet that I own. Portable ham radio, why I became an op. It's good stuff in there. How I learned CW and got on the air in under a month. If you're thinking about starting, just kind of goes through the process, and everybody learns at a different pace. I think a month is kind of on the quicker side, but everyone can do it. It's just it takes time and dedication. A little bit from the Huntsville Ham Fest, so I'll say that was one of the highlights of the year. Was my son Levi KQ4UUD got his license, passed his tech exam at the Huntsville Ham Fest, and yes, we will be back there again this year. And then a little bit about making his first contact. So again, if you're a beginner, there's some good stuff in there about what to expect getting on the air, just on your local repeater or whatever, because even that I didn't really know what to expect. And then I did a couple activation videos, and then this one I believe here, 15 words a minute. My first filmed CW POTA activation. So that wasn't my very first ever. I didn't film that one. I think I had so much going on in my mind. I didn't want to worry about trying to film or whatever, but it was one, I would say, within the first 3 or 4, and that went okay. And it's kind of fun to see the the progress of, you know, what it was like back then. And I believe that's important because everybody starts out somewhere. So posting a video at 15 words a minute, or even going back and doing an activation at a slow speed, is important because we want to bring on the beginners and the people that are just starting out. Not everybody's doing 20 plus, 25 or whatever. And then a few other parks on the air. I did a video on a mag mount. This is kind of a fun one. If I still use this method, tennis ball and a fishing rod. That's how I got most of my antennas up at the house here. It seems to work fairly well, if you want to check that out. A little bit of a preparedness video about how to use ham radio to track hurricanes. Obviously, if you lose all cell phone service and whatever, but it talks about how to do it locally and finding you know, your local repeaters and things like that. Or there are nets. Hurricane Watch Net is also pretty important. And then I did a few more parks on the air activations. We got my son's first parks on the air. I believe he was a tech at that time, but you know, that worked out. 10 was open enough that we got an activation. Went down to the beach. That was a fun trip. Big Lagoon State Park down near Pensacola. That was a fun time. Here's a couple of videos that one of the first ones that, like, you know, got a fairly good response. Some of the antenna videos, and it seems like antenna videos are more popular than like parks on the air activations. So, like I said in the beginning, I'm not going to, you know, only do what sells, and do what I'm interested in and what I think can help other people learn and inspire people. But just doing some testing and things like that. Here's a video. I will say, if you've never seen this, this was one I thought was a very useful thing that I really learned a lot making this video. And it's done all right, but I mean, it's I didn't think, at least initially, that it got the kind of response I was hoping for. But testing coax for loss, you can do that with, well, at least with the Stick 230 that I use. I talk about how to use that to test individual coax for loss, and I was really surprised that 2 different 50-foot lengths of coax, same size and type, different brands, and both are reputable brands that you've probably heard of, but the one had about double the amount of loss as the other one. So I thought that was a very useful thing. Check that one out. And then again, top portable items. A few people who are beginners commented on that and talked to me in person that, you know, they thought that was nice. And then if I had to start over, if you've seen some of my recent videos, I had to actually put my money where my mouth was, because my Stick 230 died. Thankfully, it was under warranty. I didn't have to buy one, but that was one of the items in there. And then the POTA Performer build, this one has done really well compared to the other videos that I've done up until that point. Yeah, and I think I've had it now. I've been using that for a year. Haven't had any problems. I've made 3 or 4 of them now, and I have made slight changes, but they're all basically the same. And you know, I've seen Greg's design, not knocking that at all. It's a little bit different. To me, this way is a little bit simpler, but a few different things you need to do with that. It is definitely cheaper though, but that's been a good one. A lot of people have enjoyed that. This was a memorable day. I had, what was it, 28 contacts in a row without calling CQ, so I had a pretty nice pile up going. And up until that point, I'd never really hit a gusher like that. At least for me, I'm not comparing. Some people may do that all the time, but for me, that was kind of a highlight. That it went really well. It was just one after another. It was good practice running a pile up. Um, Let me go back and check. Okay, we've got a few comments. I'm gonna jump back and forth on my screen and check in the comments. Um, Hello from W2CHN. Hey Mike, thanks for checking it out. And Jason KD9ZHF, congrats on a year. Yeah, thank you. And Mike's favorite video was the POTA performer build. Okay, yeah, this is the one I just talked about. Yeah, and then if you've also free to ask any questions along the way. Like I said, I'll be bouncing back and forth. I don't know how long we'll go here, but I'll just, like I said, kind of running through the past year and hitting some highlights. The Bengali Pearl, that was a big upgrade for me because before that I was using like a 3D printed $50 key, which I still have and I still use, and it's a good value for that price point, but it's kind of a big deal to go from $50 to 300 and something. But I'm glad I still enjoy the Pearl. It would be kind of nice to maybe do an update later on. A lot of videos on gear reviews seem to be when people first get something. Excuse me. And I don't know. That's okay. I do like to see that, but I think it just carries a little more weight, once somebody's had it for a while. So I like to see that. And then I did a live about starting out in CW, SKCC guide, and common abbreviations. Again, if you're trying to start out in CW, that'd be a good one. Off-center dipole to loop conversion. So somewhere along the way, I figured out that the balun was basically the same. So I thought, what if? And I made a loop out of it, and it worked. Conditions weren't like fantastic that day. So that was the build, and then this was the activation 10-meter loop. And then on 10 meters, over the winter, and it could be hit and miss. Wasn't the greatest. Here was a notable one. We had a huge snowfall last year. Being born and raised way up north wasn't so new to me, but it certainly was to a lot of people around here in South Alabama, 20 miles from the Florida border. And then we're getting into the end of the year and the beginning of 2025. I started out the year with a gear wish list and talked about what I was hoping to upgrade in the year, and some of those things I've done, some of them I haven't. Here's one, again, if you're a beginner in CW, or I guess maybe even perks on there in general if you're running SSB. Just some tips if you're going to do your first activation. And yeah, it can be intimidating, and a lot of people say that, I was scared to death, I was really nervous, and yeah, that's not unusual to be nervous, and you kind of have this mindset of like everyone else knows what they're doing and they're expecting me to know what they're doing. If I screw up, they're going to think I'm an idiot, but that's really not the case. I'm sure all of you have spoken to or communicated with other people who have made mistakes, and it's just part of life. This was one I released I had recorded a long time ago. This was just a slow, straight key SKCC. So if you were going to start out in that and didn't know what it was like, you could do that. We did make a trip in March down to southern Florida around Marco Island, which is south of Naples. And I did a couple activations. what's that? Collier Seminole State Park. That was a fun one. And then I went to what was the name of this one? 10,000 Islands. Yeah, that was a cool one. I really talked to a lot of people on this activation. And so that's kind of where I got the idea for this video, the Be an Ambassador. So because some of those interactions were filmed, I just kind of brought up the point, and so this is more of like a commentary video on amateur radio of, like, are you being an ambassador for the hobby? Are you helping to bring people in? Last thing we need is, putting a bad name on the hobby, and especially in a public place with a thing like Parks on the Air, get a few bad experiences with people, and maybe they're not going to allow it anymore at that location or something like that, or they bring in more restrictions or whatever. So that's another good one to check out. So from that came Be an Ambassador, and then it kind of became a series that I'm not done with yet, but I made a couple other videos about people that I spotlighted that I thought, well, this is a person to look to as an ambassador for the hobby of something that they've done over the years. So that's coming up in a few videos here, but I got my first bug. Bugs are kind of like, seem to be a dividing line in the CW community of love it or hate it. And as a brand new op, I didn't really like bugs at first because I thought they were harder to understand, but grown to love them. And after I've owned one, and there's something neat about it. And I do enjoy all the different types of CW keys that I have anyway, and I haven't tried them all yet. Let's see. So after that, I went out the very next day and did my first POTA. So it was a trial by fire, not really having much practice with it. So that was kind of fun. I have improved since then. Okay, so this is the antenna we're giving away, the POTA Performer wire version. That's at least what I'm calling it. Like, I'm not claiming to have invented anything new really anywhere. It's just what I'm doing, how to build stuff and whatever else. But that's what you'll be receiving if you haven't seen that video and you end up being the winner. We did a POTA activation with our local radio club, and we had a pretty good turnout, and it was a good day. I think we got close to 100 in the log, and some new people got interested as a result of that. That was kind of fun. Next one, multi-band makeover. So this was actually was my very first HF antenna, the off-center dipole, and it was the copper-clad steel wire, I believe, but the real stiff bare wire. And I just switched it over to the silicone wire so I could use it portable more easily, because it worked really well, but it really was a pain to try to wind up and unwind and deploy and all that. Another milestone was getting my kilo in both parks on the same night. Basically, the place that's the closest that I go most often is a twofer, so I get credit on both parks. First kilo and second. I'm working on the third one on the next closest one here, so that's kind of one of my goals for the rest of the year. And then I did a couple, kind of a little series here of POTA Performer for emergency communication. So maybe not what you think of when you think of POTA Performer for emergency communication, but how I used the mount and just strung out some wires for an NVIS 80-meter antenna. That worked. And even how I got to work for UHF and VHF with the vertical whip. So it's just stuff to keep in mind if you ever have need of that. And then talking about the Ambassador series a moment ago, K4SWL was the first one. Because I kind of went chronologically, it was kind of the first person that really had an influence on me as an operator, and then also as a YouTube channel. Really appreciate his videos, as so many people do, and really been an inspiration to a lot of people in the community. And I will do on occasion. I don't know if you really want to come off topic, but somewhat related gear like daily carry flashlights and stuff like that, tarp shelters, and some of those things. Um, I'm going to jump back to the comments here and catch up on that for a minute. And then feel free to ask any questions. Like I said, I'm just going to make mention of George Ross. Started watching your POTA videos. I'm in Tampa, so you're being Alabama caught my attention. Yeah, I've been to Tampa a few times. Haven't done necessarily any parks on the air over there, but I did have some good QSOs on the local repeater and checked in on that one time when I was down there. And then K4 WL, by the way. All right. Then Steve, a local guy. Thanks, Steve. Congratulations on 1 year. George Ross. Oops, it looked like K4. KW4L. All right. And then Mike saying, I think videos of trying various types of POTA antennas over time make good videos. Yeah, I mean, there's no shortage. That's kind of why POTA is a lot of fun and doesn't get old to me and to a lot of other people, because you can just try out new stuff. It's a great proving grounds, and it's a low pressure kind of thing, but you can get some good feedback on how things work. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's also really good practice for emergencies if it ever comes to that. Richard K04SVF. I enjoyed the use of the 5-gallon buckets for vertical support. Yeah, that one kind of surprised me. Most of my videos, I'll give you a hint, it's kind of like, what if I have the question, what if you could do this, what if you could make that, and sometimes that makes a good video. And I really had a good response here in the last week or two of putting out that video, so that went really well. And then sometimes like one guy's like, oh, this is a genius idea. Well, sometimes the biggest genius is just something really simple. It doesn't have to be a super innovative complex thing. Everybody's got a 5-gallon bucket, or at least very easy access to one, and you can take, you don't need to use a piece of metal like I use. You could cut a plywood in a circle or just about anything and change it and make it what you want to, but something that's a good size, it's got a good diameter, and then put some weight in it, and worked really good. And when I used it on the beach, it was close enough that the sand was pretty wet, and there was a little bit of water washing up against it, but even the water washing against it seemed to pack it in better and really seal it down, and so that thing wasn't going anywhere. So I am really pleased with how that turned out, and that'll be making another appearance here soon. I'm kind of hoping to do some other islands. I thought about doing islands on the air contest, and it just kind of would have been too much with all the other stuff we had going on, so I didn't do that this year. But maybe next time. The $20, and it should have been $25 game changer, but this was for a stake pocket mount made by the brand Fire Stick. That's worked really well, really cut my deployment time way down. So I don't maybe not use that every single time, but hey, if I can just screw the whip on and extend it, and my van's large enough to be a good ground plane, I don't need to mess with radios or anything else. Why not? That's an easy thing. Next one was Ambassador Series, was my buddy Jim, WB0 RLJ out of Nebraska. If you're a CW POTA guy, you've probably heard of Jim. Wonderful guy. He's got a nice channel too. and he was kind enough to reach out to me when I was having a problem and I didn't even know it. So you can check that video out for the details on that. The next one, well, let me jump back here to the comments. Are you going to Huntsville? Yes, I am. We're planning to be there. KJ5, GKK, the Southern Ham. Hey, Paul, what's going on? Congrats on your 1-year anniversary. Yeah, check out Paul's channel too. Paul's got some good stuff out there over in Louisiana. I used to live in Louisiana. I lived in Thibodaux and Raceland for a little bit. So Thibodaux, Raceland, Houma, that area. That was quite a few years ago now, but yeah, familiar with that area a little bit. Another comment from Mike, W2CHN, reviews of off-topic items like the tarp and others is helpful too. Yeah, because I kind of think about it holistically, because some of these things are really important. Like, it's not all about radio gear. Like, sometimes a nice chair can make or break the activation, or bug spray, or whatever. I mean, that's essential items to me. So I try to think holistically, kind of in life in general. Yeah, thanks for all the comments. I'm going to jump back to the videos and keep going. And yeah, feel free to put in questions too, or suggestions of things you'd like to see coming up. The FT710 setup, how to program with the buttons. Yeah, so that was another milestone. I upgraded, got the FT710. Been really happy with that. One thing really cool, I'll just grab the mic here, but the mic has 2 buttons on top and 4 across here, and you can program them to do a lot of different functions. So I found some that I thought would be helpful for doing parks on there and stuff like that. Logging with parks on there, that's a big topic. I haven't seen a ton of videos about that, but that's important when you're starting out. You need to know how to log, and there's a couple of different methods. I started with paper, and then I went to some apps. I've tried a couple of different apps. Currently, I use Polo, and I really like that. It's been a great app, and it's still improving. And then we did a couple of special events in June. So June was a pretty busy month. We had the Hank Williams special event, and then the very next day we went down to the USS Alabama. So my son accompanied me on both of those. And by the way, he did pass as general a couple months after. I believe that was November of 24. So he's a general too, and I'm finally getting to the point where I want to pass my extra, because I'm seeing too many DX stations and places that I'm not allowed to go at this point. So, and the other thing too is I'm at the place where I'm starting to understand more of the theory and stuff. And part of why I want to pass the general too is, like, I actually want to understand the questions and learn more too as well. The Chameleon, so there's a gear review. Like, I don't do a whole lot of that, but I do with stuff that I use that I feel like I could speak to. The Chameleon M25 coil, and the 25-foot whip's been out for like a year, but the coil is much newer. I did have a problem and had to send back the first one. It was a very bizarre thing. I mean, a coil is really a hard thing, very uncommon that it should fail, but something happened, and Chameleon was really good and sent me a brand new one, no questions asked. So I've been using that, really like that. 40, 30, 20, all the way to 6 meters if you want to. With that setup, that has gone really well. And I did that with that bucket video. I put this on, and it's pretty cool to go from 40 to 30. You just plug in a little jumper wire and you're there. Don't have to mess with rails or nothing with that type of setup. So that's always nice. Here's another kind of whatever, not really radio item review, like the gear top albatross. So this tarp, it's a vehicle tent or tarp kind of thing. And when it's hot, I mean, hey, you need some shade. You'll be cooking out there, if not cooking your rig. If you can't get out of the shade, out of the sun when it's hot, or maybe you have a little light rain come through or whatever. But I've been pretty happy with that. I used it quite a bit right away, and then haven't so much lately. Um, Code Buddy Rag Chew, my buddy George up in Tennessee. Uh, if you don't know what a Code Buddy QSO is on Morse code, casual conversation that happens on a regular basis really helps you improve. I did mention this already. The Stick 230 died, and I did get warranty on that. So we're getting just about caught up here. A 6 meter POTA Magic, call that because they call it the Magic Band because it can kind of come and go really quickly, and it can be really awesome, and then it's gone. So 6 meters is a little bit different. I might make a video how to get started in 6 meters, and I'm not one of those people that's like all about it and have 14 element Yagi or whatever. I mean, it's just I've had some fun with it, but the exchanges are generally kept pretty quick, and a lot of times they exchange grid squares. It's about all you need to know, other than when to look and what to look for. Beating tough band conditions, yet another kind of a commentary video. Things to think about there. We know this summer has been a little rough. And then this Easy Wire Vertical, 3 bands, no Valen. And I don't know why when I make these thumbnails, all of these letters, all this whole thing is easily visible in certain computers and different things. It shows up, so maybe I need a little work on making my thumbnails so it's always visible. But that antenna worked well, and I actually made a better one, a little more permanent one. I tried out last weekend, did work well again. I got that footage. I'll be bringing that out live here in the next few days. That antenna works well as a 40-meter quarter wave vertical. So you do need to get, you either need tall trees like we got here, or a tall mast or something to get it up there. But if you can do that, it seems to work really well. 6-meter square loop. Again, I wonder what if, and kind of built this thing. And then the 5-gallon bucket. Yeah, we talked about that, and we're kind of all caught up. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to stop and go back to the comments, and let me know if you have any more questions. And then I guess we'll kind of wrap it up. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up ahead. Okay, so Mike Frattini, do you have any tips on getting your CW copy speed up? I did 13 words per minute years ago for my general, but I'm rusty. Yeah, Mike, that's a really common thing. First of all, just know that there's a lot of people out there where you're at. There's a lot of people that are either brand new or that were a little rusty and need to get back into it. I'll just say if you still remember your characters, start kind of make sure you got established there, and then I would say if you feel comfortable enough to get on the air, you don't get good to get on the air. You get on the air to get good. That's some of the best advice I had. And when I started out, I think if you look through the shorts, you'll see my very first CW QSO ever, and it's pretty laughable. I mean, I was slow, and I was very, very it was pretty nasty, but I just like, hey, let's just give it a try. So that would be my first thing is getting on the air. There's nothing will help you more than getting on the air. And then the second thing I did that I really want to put a shout out to is CW Innovations, or CWI. So if you have heard of Terry, aka the POTA Babe. You've maybe seen her channel, or Glenn W4YES. They're kind of the two in charge of that program. But I took that course in the beginning of 2025. It started in January, so it is a free course. They operate on donations. But everybody that I know that has taken that course has made significant improvement, and they've also said this has been the best class that I've taken. That's helped me the most. And it's kind of billed as the last one you'll need to take, because it teaches you how to learn CW and kind of how to self-identify your weak points, and it brings you through a system that you continue to have access through. So, previous to taking that class, I was kind of like maxing out about 15 words a minute. So I had done a lot of POTA. I had I could do an activation in the upper teens and do pretty good. But, if it was like a rag chew or something that it wasn't like a scripted thing that I kind of knew what to expect, 15 was pushing it, and I was writing everything down with the pencil. If I didn't have paper, I was kind of lost. So I went from there to like 20 plus, and then head copying or not writing anything down. And even beyond that. And then a few weeks ago, I kind of slipped a little bit and I've gone backwards some, which is also common. But because of that training, I knew what to work on. And what you want to do as far as training your ears, listen a lot faster than where you're at. So, I would say my comfort level is somewhere in the mid-20s. But I listen to 30 to 35, like when I'm listening to, it's either Morse Code Ninja is probably the website, or it's Kurt Zolgman. You'll find he has tons of YouTube videos, and anything from single letters to words and sentences, and it's just about anything you can think of. And I listen to, when you're listening, if something happens in your brain when you're listening at 30 and 35, and then you get on the air at 20 or 22, it's just, it really helps you move forward. So that's about all I'm going to say on that. Let me know if you have any other questions. And again, I'm always available. You try to get me an email or whatever, and I'll be glad to help you out. Yeah, John's CWI thumbs up. John's also an alumni. He was in my class. I'm sure John can attest to the progress that he's made. He's on there all the time as well. So I'll just give it a couple more minutes for last comments, and while I'm waiting for that, I'll talk about what's coming up. So I guess the next big event, like we've mentioned, Huntsville. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. I'll be at Huntsville on Saturday, the Huntsville Ham Fest. See me walking around. And again, just shoot me an email if you like, hey, I'm going to be there. I'd like to get together, whatever. Shoot me an email. We'll see what happens. And then going on into the fall, don't have any big things planned in the books. I mean, it's kind of different here in the deep south, and I'm sure the southwest too, where it's really hot in the summer. In the north, summer is kind of like the prime time for Parks on the Air, because no one wants to go out when it's minus 20. But to me, like from October to Christmas time is some of my favorite time to actually really be out in the park. So I'm looking forward to do that. I do still have aspirations of maybe doing a Summits on the Air. There are a few places in Alabama. I haven't really looked into that too far, but I'd like to do that. I'd like to get to a few different places. Like I mentioned, possibly some islands or whatnot. I've kind of always had the hope to put up a big sky loop around here. Really fortunate to have a decent sized yard and a lot of tall trees, so it wouldn't be uh, too daunting to do that. I'm pretty happy with what I've got now, which is the 155-foot Palomar Engineer Bullet, which is billed as a random wire, but right now it's really a 160-meter offset fed dipole, because I've got 250 feet of wire, 155 on one end, 95 on the other, and a 9-to-1. So I've been pretty happy with that. It's a pretty good antenna. But people that have big loops really like them, and I haven't heard anybody that doesn't, so I've always been interested in that. Yeah, I guess there's always little gear items, radios and keys and whatever else that I might be interested in doing. Oh yeah, another comment, Jason. I would really like to do the CWI. Yeah, my advice is get in touch with them. Go to the website, and they do have a waiting list sometimes. They only have so many classes throughout the year. Sometimes you may have to wait a while to get in. So I would say if this is something you're serious about, get in touch with them. Find the website. Get in touch with them. They do an interview. It's not for everybody, but at the same time, it's not super exclusive. Don't think that you have to be, already, very skilled to be able to join CWI. Any interest in a beverage receive antenna? Yes, I do. I would. The problem being my radio doesn't have a receive only port, which I kind of wish it did. But yeah, that would be nice, and you wouldn't have to put it up that high, and you could just run it out wherever you need to. Definitely would be a good deal there. I don't know. I guess I just want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. I guess I'll wrap up talking about just the YouTube side of things. What's it been like? Well, first starting out, I really thought it would be easier. I thought I would get more views faster in the first few videos. I'm thinking like, hundreds of views and get like 32. I'm like, what the heck? Why is nobody, what am I doing wrong? And a lot of what I've seen, I've done a little bit of research on like how to grow your channel. I mean, I don't really base a lot of my stuff off that, but there is some interesting things to learn. But most people will say is you got to stick it out. You got to hang in there. So I'm glad to have made it a year. And I think one of the neatest things, and don't quote me on this, but I want to say, if y'all have heard of Mr. Beast, one of the biggest channels in the world, I think at the 1 year he had like 300 to 700 subscribers, So obviously he's doing something right. He's got a huge channel. Everybody knows, but he had to go through the growing pains of getting started, and by no means have I arrived a few hundred subscribers, but I do really appreciate it. I do really appreciate it that people are enjoying it. I like to inspire people. I'm glad people are interested in what I'm interested in, and I want to see people get out there, do experiments, get on the air, try new things, and all of that. So I think we'll wrap it up. Again, thanks everybody. I'm gonna make note of all these names. If you've left a comment here, I will save that and enter your name. And like I said, I'm going to give it about 5 days to let the people catch up who couldn't be here live, and let them have a chance to win as well. And we'll post that up here in a few days. So all right, that's it for tonight. More to come. Always be putting out more stuff. And again, thanks a lot. We'll catch you later. This has been yet another Ham Radio live stream. This is Jay, KQ4DUX. Good night, everybody. 7-3.